Venezuela being kicked out and taken over, and the meeting in Davos to discuss all of this, where the Europeans are going crazy. If you're over here listening to European television about Greenland being taken over by the United States of America. So, with that, we'll bring in the Honorable David M. Walker, the former Comptroller General of the United States, to discuss these very important topics.
All right, Nick, good to be with you. I actually had a haircut this morning. I think they took a little bit of too much off the top, but we'll go on to this more important topic. Let me start with Greenland. I think it's important to have a little historical context. The United States offered to buy Greenland in 1946 for $100 million worth of gold. And, obviously, if you adjust that for inflation, the number is different. If you adjust it for the value of gold, you get to a much bigger number, because gold has gone from $35 an ounce to about $4,000 an ounce. So this is not the first time the United States has tried to buy Greenland. Secondly, most people don't know, but the people of Greenland have the right to secede from Denmark. Unlike a state in the United States, you don't have the right to secede under our Constitution. In fact, we fought a civil war over that from 1861 to 1865. But Greenland, and interestingly enough, the provinces of Canada have the right to secede from Canada, just as Greenland has the right to secede from Denmark if the people so choose. Now, the interesting footnote on that is that the Parliament of Denmark must approve the secession, although if the people in Denmark voted to secede, it would be hard to see how the Parliament of Denmark would say no, since in effect they would be undercutting the will of the people. Look, my personal view is that Greenland does have national and economic security implications, but there is no current national security threat with regard to Greenland. My personal view is that it would be absurd for the United States to, quote unquote, invade Greenland. And I think there's virtually no chance that the United States will invade Greenland. On the other hand, I do think the United States has a legitimate national security and economic security interest with regard to Greenland, not only today, but increasingly over time as Russia and China become more active in the Arctic region. And given the geopolitical and strategic importance of Greenland as it relates to such items as intercontinental defense, if you will, and also trade routes that are increasingly opening up in the Arctic because of the melting ice. But in my view, that's something that ought to be negotiated. It's hard for me to believe that Denmark wouldn't be willing to give U.S. extensive rights for military operations in Greenland. It's in their interest. They're a NATO ally. They don't have the ability to do it. Secondly, it's hard to believe that Greenland and Denmark wouldn't be willing to give the United States and private sector entities significant ability to extract rare earth minerals from Greenland, which is important because both the United States and many Western nations are unduly dependent upon China for rare earth materials and processing. And that's got to change. It needs to change sooner rather than later. My personal view is that when President Trump talks about imposing additional tariffs on European nations that don't support his desire to acquire Greenland, that those tariffs would not withstand scrutiny by the Supreme Court. And you rightly point out that the Supreme Court has an important case dealing with tariffs before it. I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think there's three categories of tariffs. One category is bilateral or multilateral negotiations. Those will stand. There's no reason the Supreme Court would overrule those. The second are tariffs that are based on significant national security or public health issues that are clear and present. I think the court would likely give the president more flexibility on those. The third are ones where tariffs are being imposed where there's not a clear national security or economic security interest, and where allegedly we are imposing reciprocal tariffs, which in fact are not reciprocal tariffs. I think those are very much at risk and could well be struck down by the Supreme Court. At the same point in time, then the question would be, well, what happens? Do you have to refund all the money that you've collected or not? I think it's more likely than not that the Supreme Court would not require you to have to refund the money and would just say you can't collect any more tariffs with regard to this without congressional approval. But we'll see. So Greenland is understandably at the top of mind with regard to Davos. There are other issues, including Ukraine, Iran, Venezuela, including the mounting debt burdens, not just in the United States, but around the world. Larry Fink from BlackRock, just within the last few days, has gone public saying that he's increasingly concerned about U.S. debt burdens and the risk to the future. But frankly, it's not just the United States. It's many other Western nations as well. We need to quit living for today. We need to start taking steps to help create a better tomorrow. So that's my opening, and I'm happy to hear what you and others have to say so we can continue this dialogue.
Okay, we're going to be joined by Richard Coffin, who is he's here at least electronically on the phone, but I can't see him. Richard, what are your thoughts about the U.S. debt? Richard is the president of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, Inland Empire Chapter. Richard, can you hear us?
He's muted.
You're muted.
Yes, I can, Nick. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
By the way,
one thing we discussed.
Nick, real quickly, the debt is now $38.4 trillion and growing rapidly.
I can't keep up with it. Every time we talk, you add another trillion to the debt. So, Richard, what are they saying at NAFA about the debt? In other words, how do you plan around this $38 trillion debt?
Well, I kind of follow personally the mindset of people like David McKnight and kind of what they're preaching about the power of zero and trying to get your clients into a situation where they are at a tax rate that's more favorable for their situation as opposed to the debt situation that's going on in the United States. So I'm an insurance practitioner by trade, so that's what I'm trying to do, is trying to take some of their retirement assets off of the radar of the IRS and such. So I mean, it's a huge issue that we need to obviously take better control of, but that's kind of what I work with my clients and business owner clients and such.
Well, Richard, let me come back on that, because I do a lot of speaking with financial advisors and insurance agents and things of that nature. I mean, the bottom line is that a day of reckoning is coming. And when that day of reckoning happens, then the federal government's going to end up spending less and it's going to tax more. And therefore, people are going to have to assume more responsibility for their own future income security, health security. We've been told most of our lives that you're going to pay a lower effective tax rate when you retire than you are when you're working. While that's true with regard to social insurance taxes, I believe that's absolutely not true with regard to income taxes. I believe that income tax rates are the lowest they're ever going to be right now, and there's only one way to go, and that's up. I also believe that that social insurance programs are not going to be exempt from reforms. And people are living longer, and therefore they need to plan accordingly. And so, I and others have used a lot of strategies to try to be able to plan, save, invest, and also consider the tax implications of how you're saving and investing in light of, the trends that I just mentioned.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're also going to bring in some people that are international We have Dr. Sharif, who's coming in from Bangladesh. And we also have Sasha Starr, who's coming in from Canada. Dr. Sharif, I don't know if you're following what's going on in Davos, Switzerland this week. They're going to have the World Economic Forum. And I know you run the World Talent Economic Forum out of Asia. What are your thoughts about the World Economic Forum and the global risk that they're going to be discussing this week in Davos?
Yeah, thank you. This is a very good sessions, and I learned a lot from Honorable David Walker, Nick Palveda, and all of the speakers. World Economic Forum published the Global Risk Report each year based on the survey of experts from the government, business, academia, and civil society, and it's actually brings some sort of economical confirmations, and it provides some sort of conflict in between this around the world, extreme weather events, social polarization, misinformation, disinformation, what I discuss regularly about in this POT TV. These are the economic growth, global supply chain, investment risk, policy response, and this year we are observing Trump administrations with all of his colleagues, they attend in this event, and all of the big peoples and big corporations and everything, they actually join in these things. And hopefully it will be very successful, because this successful collaborations and other things is very important. But question is about how we observing the global challenges, specifically with this tariff. Secondly, with different kind of war and unstable economies and other things. And what we see right now, we are not united world. We have a lot of conflict. Iran has conflict. In South Asia, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan has conflict. In Middle East, there is a lot of conflict. In Africa and other countries. Actually, what is the challenges, what I'm observing and what I'm trying to solve with my World Talent Economic Forum? Understanding the people need is the most important factor for this global leader. And they fail to understand these things effectively. The big corporations, the government agency, the big leaders, United Nations, World Economic Forum. So their strategy, it's more like a corporate strategy. It's not people strategy. Like they do not have enough involvement with the people. They do not have enough involvement with the culture. They only invite, hey, you are the Prime Minister advice and come and join in this table dialogue. This is not the way of doing things. Understanding the people, their need, their demand, solving this complex problem is major initiative, and I'm very honest with you. It's happened around the world. Always the big people come, big discussion happen, and it's fail. So this is high time we have to go for restructuring. Let's say POT TV. There are many big media like CNN, BBC. They are working, but they fail to understand the, let's say, emerging economy. Let's say Bangladesh, let's say India, and all of the things. But POT TV trying to bring this kind of things. We need this kind of organizations like in the Global Forum. We need real involvement, grassroots level community involvement in these forums, and we need good leader who has ability to solve the problem, not based on money, based on ethics. That is some of the missing point. I'm happy World Talent Economic Forum, definitely we are not so big, but we are happy. We are engaging with millions of people. They are supporting our initiative, and we are helping at least people. Right now, we are providing free education, free healthcare, and food for my communities. Maybe it's very small, but step by step we will grow. And thank you, Nick Palveda, for this kind of dialogue. This is extremely important for open society.
Nick, let me jump in if I can. Piggyback on something that Dr. Sharif said. One of the things that I find is, at least in our country and potentially other countries, our elected leaders do not engage with the public enough with regard to the facts, the truth, the tough choices that we face. They're living for today. They're not taking steps to help create a better tomorrow. They're not addressing some large, known, and growing challenges that only get worse with the passage of time. They wait until there's a crisis before they act, rather than acting preemptively to avoid a crisis, and that needs to change. In addition to that, I think we need to recognize that in our country, and I think many countries, the issue of affordability is a real issue. They're concerned about the cost of food. They're concerned about the cost of energy, housing, healthcare, childcare. These are basic fundamental things that people are concerned about, and they want to know what government is going to do to try to be able to address them. We also have a number of global issues that have to get focused on now. In addition to the debt issue, we have the implications of artificial intelligence. We have the immigration issue. We have the supply chain issue. Yes, there are security issues that we need to be concerned about around the world as well, not just ones that are hot right now, but ones that could become hot, such as Taiwan, depending upon what the situations are going forward. And so, we're in challenging times. We need to recognize the reality that we need to start dealing with some of these issues in advance, rather than waiting until they're boiling over, which all too frequently is how politicians deal with things.
Excellent.
And by the way, Sasha.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to Canada now.
Yeah, he looks kind of Hollywood today. Look, he's kind of Hollywood today.
I'm in Curacao right now.
I saw that.
I'm not in Canada for sure. Yeah, okay.
I know it's so bright and hot up in Canada. Yeah.
Minus 25 or so. Listen, I will be much more direct than all of you. Sorry to say you that. There is one problem that nobody mentioned so far for the United States and the rest of the world. The name of the problem is the President Donald Trump. He failed miserably at domestic issue, at foreign issue. He lost one of the pillars of the United States of America that you, David, mentioned in your book. It's a soft power. It's been killed. There is no more soft power of the United States of America. So now it's involved in hot conflicts, in tariffs issue against top 8 European countries. He threatens tariffs from February 1st. Guess what? There's a rude awakening. Europe before this time, they were trying to talk to Trump to get him back into normal situation as it was since the end of Second World War. No more. It's a strict retaliation against the United States. Canada, Japan, South Korea, China, they're all ready to join forces and completely isolate America. Europeans stopped buying worth $360 billion worth of US arms. They are going to put embargo on all American products, and that will bring Trump to his knees, and he will start begging that, sorry, I just said so. I didn't mean to do it. And this is you misunderstood me, what exactly I wanted to say. No, my friend, enough is enough. Now it's a payback time, baby, and you have to get responsibility for all the garbage that's coming from your mouth. That's the situation here and there right now. And the payment, it's already been studied, all these tariffs, whether they're legal or not, up to Supreme Court, they're being paid by American people. That's what's happened with the tariffs. It's additional tax. The truth, his promises that he's bringing $1 trillion worth of investment. Show me at least one investment materialized. Show me one of the factories that being built with these trillions of dollars. None. It's all talking. He's failing American people, and the only thing what they can do is to get midterm election and get his cronies, Republicans, out of House, Senate, and wait another 2 years until they will get back presidency as well. That's the only thing what can help America. Nothing.
And that is engage brain before mouth is in motion.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Trump has to do.
No,
Engage brain, but there is none.
I agree.
National Guard. It went to the Supreme Court. So I wouldn't be surprised if the tariffs actually go against them. But I agree with David, it'll probably be several different parts to the tariff.
What do you think, Rick?
I had a quick
Okay.
thought, and I definitely want to hear from
Same
Richard
question.
and everything like that.
Richard Coffin. Okay, we have Donald Trump and his team going to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Elon Musk will not be there because he goes, it's a waste of time. But Trump, Rubio, and his team to buy Greenland from the Europeans, especially Denmark, who has control. What is your thoughts on this, Richard Coffin? Unmute yourself, please.
My thoughts are good luck. Do your best. I really have no comment on this. It's kind of out of my my wheelhouse as far as what I would deal with, but just the best to him.
Let me point out a couple things that everybody has been pointed at. We've had treaties with Denmark and Greenland since 1941 that allow us to do whatever we want in Greenland. In 1945, we had 17 military bases all across. And as the Cold War went on, that one military base there now, but if we wanted to add another 10 all across the island, Greenland would be fine with that. Denmark would be fine with that. If we want to mine there for the rare earth metals, fine. Greenland has issued licenses to exercise. It is brutal. We can. It's 2,000 freedom to do what we want.
$100 in gold in 1946 is now worth, I think, and you can check me out on this, Rick, about $200 billion today. But there's no reason to spend any money because we already have the ability to build bases and we already have the ability to access rare earth minerals. And I don't understand why Trump is doing what he's doing. It really doesn't make any sense to me.
Now, a lot of people are saying, well, this is just how he negotiates. And there's a story about how he got Mar-a-Lago at an 80% discount. He was negotiating with them, and they wanted, I don't know, 50 million, 100 million for Mar-a-Lago. So Trump said, well, I'm just going to buy the property, the piece of land that stands between Mar-a-Lago and the ocean. And I'm going to put up a 10-story building that will block the view. And this scared the people selling Mar-a-Lago so much, they sold it to him for a deep, deep discount. So maybe he's just effing with Denmark, trying to get a better deal. I don't know.
We don't need to buy it. It's the whole point.
Yeah.
We don't need to buy it. We need basing rights. We need rights to access the rare earth materials. We already have that. Mark, you've been patiently waiting.
No, we're just going to ask Sasha if he was going to rush out because he's over there enjoying his vacation and everything to get a EV, because I understand that part of the deal that was just recently put out with Canada is that the Chinese EVs are getting ready to come to Canada and everything like that. So I didn't know if you're going to be rushing out to get a electric car. And I was also curious, even though I know it's the economic show, what his thoughts were about Putin joining this board of peace, because apparently there's a board of peace in Gaza and all along those lines. So I was just curious his thoughts on both of those, whether he's going to rush out to get a car to go with his nice tan that he's gotten over there in the beach.
what Canada is, what it's doing is diversifying its trading partners. They are diversifying and selling its natural resources all over the world, including China and Japan and European countries and all this infrastructure. He had successful trip in China, and of course they are partnering in China, not only electric cars, but also infrastructure build up in Canada. And I think he visited some the Middle Eastern countries, Qatar, for example, to drum up investment in Canada. And for them, it's much more lucrative and advantageous way to invest versus United States of America. So what I can see will happen, it doesn't matter anymore about the tariffs, what he's proposing or he's about to start. It's not. It's a completely isolation of America on the world stage as a military, financial, and all other considerations concerned. Enough is enough. That's a message to our American friends, and that's from this point on what's going to happen.
Makes sense and everything like that. Hey, I was just curious, David, and I know we got Richard too. What is Richard's wheelhouse? So, Richard, what is your wheelhouse? Because you said that the last questions weren't in your wheelhouse and everything like that. So, I was just curious what his wheelhouse was.
Well, I'm a financial advisor in the United States, and I work with business owners to help them successfully exit or transition out of their businesses. So we use different tax strategies to help them with that. So yeah, that's what I work with on a day-to-day basis. And my serving as president for NAFA California is we're the biggest advocacy group on behalf of the insurance and financial industry, advocating on behalf of the the products and services that we offer our clients. And yeah, that's what I do. That's what I work with on a day-to-day basis.
Mark, stated differently, he's microeconomics instead of macroeconomics.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
To go back to Greenland for a second, Trump also mentions that he has to own Greenland so that China or Russia can't buy it, which is ridiculous because the combined 500 million members of the EU and NATO, not including us, are not going to let China or Russia buy Greenland. And he says, well, yeah, what if they set up missiles there? That's what the Cuban Missile Crisis in '62 was about, that we couldn't let Russia put missiles on the island of Cuba, which is 80 miles away from the U.S. Missiles 80 miles away from the U.S. in the form of submarines that can launch off our coasts, and we have a very hard time detecting where they are and driving them away. So the idea that, you know, that it's a sense.
Just really quickly, you definitely founded this net standing because it's y'all.
First, okay, different issue. Fiscal is tax and spending. I focus primarily at the federal level, but state and local governments have issues too. You know, people need to understand the fiscal for two reasons. One, they need to start putting more pressure on their elected representatives to start making tough choices to put our finances in order. And secondly, they need to understand what the effect of the failure of the government to put our finances in order will be on them with regard to their own financial planning, you know, if you will. And that's what Richard, I think, focuses on. So I try to focus on macro and micro. Here's the macro. Here's what the implications are for micro. What do you need to do to protect yourself and your family? And by the way, what did you do to put a fire under your elected officials
phones translate all our stuff now. I took 5 years of French, junior high and high. I can't speak French. It was wasted time. And take that hole in the curriculum that financial literacy
should be
Company.
here with that issue.
the United States
years until
got the government down to 1.7 to 1 deficit, and when the Supreme Court may rule many of those to be unconstitutional. I would also add that I think the Trump battleship to shoot hypersonic missiles is one of the other dumbest things I've ever heard of, given the fact that you've got total visibility over the battlefield as long as it's above the surface. The only thing you don't have total visibility on, which we've touched on earlier, is submarines.
Jacoby got a question, but he's on mute.
I think we're kind of glossing over a few things as well, because honestly, even though Sasha may have sounded extreme in what he was saying, honestly, he's hitting on a point that we're missing. Because of the relationships that are getting frayed based on what's happening, that has caused, and this was covered by some other news organizations as well, that has caused for other nations to begin to actually work together. For example, Canada and their exports are a lot different. You have China, which was supposed to be hit by a deficit in their, a trade deficit. No, they have a huge trade surplus. They're dominating the world right now with their trade surplus. So when we're fraying these relationships right now, even though we're saying, oh, well, it's just going to be 3 years and then we change things, it takes longer to build a bridge than it does to burn a bridge.
Yeah, I agree with
So
that.
in that building, we're losing a lot of connections with the world that we should keep. So I think what Sasha's saying is very valid, and I don't think we should just gloss over that.
it's also letting the air out of the dollar.
It
We
lets
lose
air out
those
a lot of
relations.
Also, another thing that we're forgetting is even when we're ranting and raving about, oh, well, the GDP is high and blah, 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 we're in a K-shaped economy. So the individuals, when we're talking about, that need to go to the grocery store or need to learn financial literacy or need to learn these little bitty things and they'll be okay. It's not that easy right now, especially with the way the economy is going and the way that it's breaking down. So there are a lot of people who are struggling and being hurt, living check to check, are now starting to go bankrupt. Right now, I think we're sitting at a 15 or a 20-year high on companies filing for bankruptcy. And so we're missing a lot by glossing over these things and saying that, oh, well, the GDP is great. Woohoo!
No, you need to go below GDP. The fact of the matter is, and Rick can check me on these because he's so good at doing the research quickly. I think about 60% of households are living paycheck to paycheck. Okay. In addition, I think Richard already mentioned the low percentage of people that have an adequate amount of savings for emergencies. Okay. And who don't have adequate retirement savings, especially given the fact that they're likely to live longer. Okay. There are a number of we have growing gaps between the haves and the have-nots. There's no question about that. And that's a very serious issue that we need to come to grips with. The middle class is getting squeezed because we have programs to deal with the poor and the disabled. The wealthy they're going to be okay no matter what the situation is. And so the middle class is who gets squeezed.
It depends on your definition of paycheck to paycheck.
Also, the poor and disabled programs that you're talking about are also being cut.
What percentage?
It depends on your definition.
Yeah.
If you do a strict definition, it's like 29%. But a different definition gives you 70%. But I can tell you, just from the vibe of the country, that 90% of the country feels insecure.
And also, and like I said, but those programs that we had to deal with the poor and disabled, they're also being squeezed and cut. So we're in a position where, again, I know Nick puts up the GDP is up, but that doesn't help people who living paycheck to paycheck, poor and disabled, because I mean, all these things we're missing.
Well, a lot of people are concerned about what the implications of AI are going to be too on their job security, and there's no question about that. All right, it's going to be positive and negative, but people, we're going to need more people to be able to quality control and analyze what AI does, but we're going to need a lot fewer people that all they're doing is doing research and doing rote activities. And it's not just AI, by the way; it's robotics. Robotics is going to end up replacing a lot of things. There are a number of countries that are ahead of that, one of which is, for example, is Japan in dealing with elder care. A lot of robotics to try to be able to help in that regard.
Honorable David.
It was Sasha time and then Sharif. Dr. Sharif, it's Sasha first.
Growth of GDP. This is highly misleading number because most of that number reflects artificial intelligence, and one company like NVIDIA is investing $5 billion in another company that is tied up with it and producing certain elements for NVIDIA. So this is meaningful for American people. They don't give a damn about this NVIDIA buying $5 billion worth of another company. But this is all creates this $4.3 billion, 4.3% of gross GDP. Okay, yeah. So for most of Americans, it's nonsense. The prices in supermarkets going higher and higher. That's what affects most of American people. Coming back to Greenland, Trump sent a letter to Norwegian president that he is accusing that what's going on with Greenland, it's because Trump was not given Nobel Peace Prize last year. So this is implicating that what Trump is doing is not for America, it's for himself. That's what an issue with Greenland. But it triggers another point. Europe or European Union, doesn't matter, they are one of the biggest, together with China, holders of US debt of $38 trillion. And guess what? If it will have to be refinanced, or some of it will be definitely refinanced this year, there will be higher percentage paid for this $38 trillion worth of US debt. That will affect American as well, because the mortgages will go higher, the interest payments will go higher. So you are living on a time bomb that will destroy most of American lives.
Rick, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I go back to AI. So yesterday, I'm watching football. I asked AI, what's up with fumbles? And AI immediately wrote me a term paper on what's going on. So it's like, what's going on is that, yeah, they're training defensive players to punch the ball out. That's a fairly new thing. But the number of fumbles is down 20% from last year. It told me the whole thing. It knew, I mean, it scared me a little bit how much AI knew what I wanted to know.
The training of punching the fumble out has been around for a while. However, again, I'll let Dr. Sharif go, but then I'll chime in on AI as well.
Okay. This is very interesting discussion, and it touched my heart how you discuss all of the matter. This is the beauty of North America, American beauty, that you criticize your country, you criticize the system, and still you discuss together. And we should learn from today's dialogue. I want to give special thanks to all of my North American friends. But most important factor, I always say that in terms of my point of view, it's missing in US policy and system and other things. What I'm observing right now, USA has challenge, okay, but it's not like what we see after Second World War, like Japan, like USA destroy all of the things in Japan, then they become economic superpower. So I think USA right now in that position like Japan. What happened in after Second World War in Japan. So why I'm bringing this point, like USA, definitely they have world best military. They have all world best universities. They have all world best economical institutions, financial institutions and everything. But how come, and you have a lot of talent people. I meet a lot of talented people in North America, and all of the people are very kind, very generous, and very intelligent. But how come last 10 years, including Biden administrations and everything, USA choose a most powerful country choose president like this? And that is the point. Beside you just focus all of your energy and everything to AI, you should build up next generation leader, political leader, who can take the lead, who can take care of world best military, who can take care of world best biggest economy, who can take care of world best institutions and everything. So that's why it's not like discussion. I'm taking action. I'm a man of action with St. Edward University, with California Institute of Management and Tando, my institutions, with Japan, because Japan is one of the beautiful place for intellectual activities and capacity. And Japan Vice Minister Yamanaka also in my teams, and some intelligence like Sheridan Tatsunos, and they are in my team. We are developing this leadership program. So we love to build up 1,000 leaders for this world next 5 years. But honestly speaking, I feel very bad. USA has so much of talent, so much of intelligence, but how come they choose president like this? They should bring all of the talented people. Maybe Dev Walker, you can be the next presidential candidate, or Nick Palveda, or anyone from this talented group of people.
Well, let me mention this. I don't really want to talk about individuals, but I will say that one of the things that our country needs to focus much more on, that used to be one of our founding principles and that was focused on by our nation's founders, is the issue of stewardship. As a leader, whether you're in the private sector, the public sector, or the not-for-profit sector, your job is not just to generate positive results today, not just to leave things better off when you leave than when you came, but to leave them better positioned for the future. And I will say, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or whatever is irrelevant, because the fact is, in the last 20 years or so, and both the Democrats and Republicans have been in charge for the last 20 years or so, we've been discharging our stewardship responsibilities. And that concerns me deeply. And I'm hoping that we can get more young people informed and involved, because they're the ones that are going to pay the price. They're the ones that are going to bear the burden of the failure to focus on stewardship. Let me mention one last thing quickly. I recently did a genetic test under CRI Genetics about my background. And to my shock and surprise, Dr. Sharif, I had 1% Bangladesh. 1%. I have no idea. 1%.
Oh, excellent.
Amen on that, David. I totally agree with what you said. We do need to build up our younger leaders, and that's what NAFA tries to do. We have a Leadership in Life Institute course that you're able to take as a member of this association, and it does think of the end in mind, right? So that's very important, and I think that's where we're missing the mark here with our last three presidents being the elder statesmen that they are. We really need younger people involved in that arena. I totally agree.
USA need to practice this economy. They have to.
There's a theory that Trump started all this story with Greenland and tariffs right before the forum in Davos. Why? Because in Davos, issue number one was helping Ukraine. And Trump wanted to derail this by starting all the story with Greenland and tariffs and so on. And you will see at Davos, the Greenland issue will die, the tariffs will die. It's a typical situation when Trump will chicken out again, as always. That's all there is to it. So don't worry, my friends. Everything will be okay.
I'm glad you're not worrying, Sasha. You seemed pretty worried before.
Yeah, it's good to have friends in Canada. Just remember that.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about it tomorrow on Ukrainian show at about the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, well, he's meeting Zelensky in Davos later on this week, I believe, Sasha. So we'll see what happens with the Ukraine. It's it's yet to be played out. The whole game is not over until it's over, and we're not in the fourth quarter yet. Hate to tell everybody, we're in the first quarter. Would that be correct?
And my view has not changed.
Yeah.
It's going to.
We have 3 more quarters to go, so it'll keep it interesting, and certainly we'll keep it interesting on the Pod TV network. So we do want to thank our guest, Richard Coffin, who's the president of NAFA and the Inland Empire, and also we want to thank David M. Walker, the former Comptroller General of the United States, and our panel in the United States and around the world. And we'll see you next week on Economics with the Honorable David M. Walker. Stay out of debt. That's all I can say, USA. Stay out of debt. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone.
Let's go.